Thank you very much for staying on the marketplace. Let's now move on to our very first story. And the March talked about new formula for interest rate calculation is finally being implemented from today. The Ghana reference rate is expected to bring about some transparency in determining interest rates charged by commercial banks in the country. But how would this new formula reduce the cost of credit for fresh borrowers? Some answers in this report.
Documents cited by Joy Business, as well as additional information from the Bank of Ghana, indicates the Ghana reference rate will be influenced by the policy rate, interbank lending rate, current treasury bills, cash reserves requirement, and cash in vault of commercial banks. This would mean the policy rate would have about 40% weighting, interbank 20%, and treasury bills 40% in calculating the new model. The Ghana reference rate is expected to replace the old mechanism of calculating interest rates. Commercial banks are no longer required to publish their base rate, but rather use the reference rate as the benchmark for determining interest rates. So from today, banks are required to price their interest rates by taking the reference rate and adding the risk premium that would be placed on its customer. This development could result in fresh borrowers getting a lower interest rate on their loans. Others have argued that it could help reduce cost of lending in the country. The Bank of Ghana, together with the banks, are expected to publish the new Ghana reference rate from the beginning of each month.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana, together with the Association of Bankers, has settled on 16.82% as the benchmark rate for calculating interest rates from this month. This means banks will now require the use of the Ghana reference rate as well as risk premium of potential borrowers to determine the new interest rates. In related developments, some banks say new borrowers are assured of some good rates. Antoinette Kofi is Chief Finance Officer at Barclays Ghana.
Barclays is ready to to start applying the Ghana reference rate. In actual fact, if you look at our base rates that we publish, they are not that far off from the Ghana reference rate. And so currently, we are developing our risk premiums together with the regulator to agree what risk premiums will be assigned to different categories of clients. That will be communicated to clients. And from the 4th of April, when the Ghana reference rate is published, we will be pricing all new loans against the Ghana reference rate with a risk premium that will clearly articulate to the customer what category you are in and what risk premium is being assigned to you. And so going forward, I think it's a great move, if you ask me, by the central bank, because I think going forward, it will be clear to all customers why you are lent to at a particular rate and how you can get a better rate if you want to. Because if, let's say, the quality of your collateral contributes to the risk premium, getting better quality collateral will help you get a lower risk premium and therefore a lower lending rate. So I think the Ghana reference rate is a great way to go. And as Barclays, we are well poised and well positioned to start implementing it from next week.
You pride yourself on having one of the best competitive base rate on the market. Now, with the application of this new module, are you still going to have that? Will it go down further or it could end up going up?
Well, contractually, we have contracts with clients that is running on the old base rate. So for that section of clients, they will not automatically be moved onto the Ghana reference rate. But we have started engaging our clients, and we will look at, from a legal point of view, to see what the implications are of the Ghana reference rate on those old base rate related contracts. However, we are going to, from the 4th of April, every new loan will be priced against the Ghana reference rate. So the upward or downward movement of the reference rate will impact whatever rate the client gets charged. In terms of risk premiums, it will be fixed on the day a facility is issued. And so the customer will be clear in his mind what risk premium is assigned to them.
All right, so there are other stakeholders who would also want to make use of the new formula for calculating interest rates, and we'll certainly get to some of these operators or people who use or who dwell on the calculation of interest rates with the new formula to also get their views. But let's still stay in the banking sector. And United Bank for Africa, UBA, has indicated it is working to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange soon. The move is part of plans to offer Ghanaians an opportunity to be part owners of the bank after operating in the country for more than 10 years. Chief Executive of UBA West Africa and immediate past MD for Ghana, Abiola Beria, said this plan is to top on the bank's agenda for the year.
Strategy somewhere last week, and all stakeholders were invited, and the agenda is to see how we can list on the stock exchange. In fact, that was the number one thing, the main discussion in our strategy. So we are preparing. We'll soon do that. Oh, I think we'll go IPO. Yeah.
To raise how much estimatedly? No,
seriously, I don't know. It depends on when we finally take that decision to go and give up some of these shares, or open up the shareholders. Then the idea will be, how much can we raise? What can we do with that money? So that's very important. But as you rightly know, these decisions cannot be taken by employees like me. So I would rather say that when the time comes, I will definitely share that information with you.
It's live on the marketplace. Away from banking, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, says it does not expect significant increases in revenue as a result of implementing the Tax Identification Number program. The authority yesterday started enforcing the TIN, despite concerns of low public knowledge about the program. Government is hoping to realize almost 40 billion cedis in tax revenue this year. However, there are projections that the program could triple revenue for the state. But Commissioner General Emmanuel Kofinti says expectations must be measured.
With these things, these are innovations that we are having in the system that will help us reach there quicker. And so we will reach there with a positive mindset of beating the target and allowing the government to do the thing that it wants to do to fast track their development. Where we are at about 16.7% of the GDP revenue isn't the best, I would say. So we have to grow the revenue to GDP in the course of time. And so these are means to achieving those things. And so we have to have people who help facilitate the process that should move the nation forward. And the target was set not primarily based on the thing. And the thing was a part of it, but the target was not set primarily on the thing. So we should get that straight. And for us at the GRA, our vision and our efforts to meet the target of revenue generation, and that's how we want to do things. We've just ended March. The January were slightly above the target in a way. February, within the last 2 weeks, the numbers were being reconciled, and we fell short of the target by February. And I believe, for me, I've spoken to my GRA people, and we are understanding that we want to meet the target quarter by quarter. We are not going to wait till the last quarter to do the fighting to meet the target.
Let's now turn attention to the petroleum industry of Ghana, where some developments are brewing up this afternoon. And the Petroleum Commission guidelines on employment of Ghanaians into the upstream petroleum sector are expected to begin in June this year. The guidelines developed by the Commission are also expected to increase transparency in the recruitment process of companies operating in the country's oil and gas sector. Speaking at the maiden localization workshop in Accra, Deputy Minister for Energy, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, disclosed that the rules in the guidelines are expected to help a number of Ghanaians who are currently engaged in the sector to increase from the figure of 12,000 since oil production began in commercial quantities in the country.
Ghana's oil and gas industry has progressively become a commanding contributor to our national economy. And this is evident in its share of exports, revenue, and gross domestic product. The country is gradually positioning itself as the oil service hub within the West African sub-region, as demonstrated by the major IOCs and service companies who are relocating their regional headquarters in Ghana. These developments, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, have placed on us the onerous responsibility to train our people to take up placements in the industry in a very effective manner. Government is indeed not oblivious of the limitations for participation in the upstream industry arising from constraints on technology, finance, and human resources. The onus, therefore, is on us to adequately and holistically empower our people through the requisite skill development programs that we will all be pursuing over the next several years to ensure that the industry does not only contribute to the growth of our economy, but also serve as a major source of employment for our people.
All right, so my colleague Ebenezer Sabute has just returned from the ongoing event on petroleum guidelines currently in Accra, and he's joined me right here in the studio to give us some more clarity on the issues that were the issues that brewed up there. Please, exactly. Now, yeah. So tell us, 12,000 people engaged in various capacities. What areas are they engaged in? What have we been doing?
Okay, so we are looking at areas like service provision. You know, sometimes it's not all the people that comes into the field that will be able to be on the oil rig, or they'll be able to be in the various tankers to operate a machine, but they can provide service to the people on the rig. So we look at service provision. We look at other areas like management services, whereby we cannot only use expatriates to do that work, but Ghanaians, and according to the minister, the deputy minister, there are Ghanaians who are engaged in those sectors as well as other, little services that has to do with the oil rig, the FPSO, and all other, services that has to do with it.
Right. So tell us more about the guidelines. What kind of guidelines have been set, and how do people who are qualified already get into it?
Okay, so these guidelines are necessarily not new guidelines. It's just a development on the LI that has to do with the local content regulation. So what they did was to review it, take certain things out, and then bring in others as well. So we have a guideline on salary and remuneration for Ghanaian workers or locals. What it says is that if you are paying an expatriate this, you are not supposed to let the expatriate enjoy this. And if you are giving an expatriate this special, fund or this special allowance, then a Ghanaian is supposed to enjoy more than this, because that person is termed as a special person. Since the thing is in his country, the production process is in his country, so he needs to benefit from certain areas. So there are certain things that has to do with salary and remuneration. They are also about management services. You know, sometimes when we there's a recruitment process, we go in for work and they say this is only for expatriate. This time around, what they are saying is that certain particular areas will be reserved for only Ghanaians. So it's not because they are recruiting, the expatriate that comes will be taken because they have the qualification.
But wait a minute, you know, one major concern is that many Ghanaians have qualified these days for various capacities in the industry. But you realize that there's a clause, because they've not operated in the system for a long time. So they put in a clause like 15 years experience.
So it is also addressed in the guideline that if the person is qualified but doesn't have the requisite experience, you are to train the person for a level of a level of years or months, so that the person becomes qualified, and then you engage him. And then also you must do that in collaboration with the Petroleum Commission. So if after a year or two the person is still not able to do that work, then you go back to the Petroleum Commission to inform them that you are not able to get a local person to operate on this field or on this sector. Therefore, you want to go to an expatriate. And also you must, you must be sure that the Petroleum Commission gives you the approval by written before you can be able to employ an expatriate on a work that is reserved for a local.
Now, beyond individual participation, what about businesses? And did it come up? The number of businesses so far, engaged in the local, the upstream sector through local content.
Yeah, as at 2017, that according to the minister, the deputy minister, they had 330, companies so far, and more than 100 of them are local businesses, and they are, hoping that with this new guideline from June going, they will get more local businesses. The guideline will actually take effect from June. So for now, they are using only the local content policy or the local content law, which is also being developed by the Petroleum Commission. But from June going, they are going to start using this new guideline.
All right, so the program is ending at 5 p.m. What else is being,
so the various companies were given platforms to come and share their, experiences with working with Ghanaian people, and then also some services that they've been able to provide to our locals as well. Some trading companies were also given the opportunity to come and highlight some of the courses that they'll be rolling out from June as a way of, improving work on this petroleum guideline, local content guideline.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer. And today is your birthday, so I want to use this opportunity to give you a surprise. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Right? And that was my colleague, Ebenezer Sabuti, who has just returned from a local content guideline event organized by the Petroleum Commission here in Accra. Away from that, high cost of government fertilizers have compelled some cocoa farmers to resort to the use of animal dung on their farms. In 2016, government asked cocoa farmers to pay for their fertilizers initially supplied for free. It follows revelation from Cocoa Board records that only 55% of farmers benefited from the free fertilizer scheme. Prince Apia has more in this report.
Face many challenges, including bad roads. Charles Jemfi is chief farmer in Tano North District of Bunahafu region.
Sometimes you have so many yields, but to convey it from your farm to the nearest roadside, it's a difficult. You have to go and carry it on your head. So what that the government is saying he's doing is not helping the farmers. The farmers need the one leading our cottages. Look at where you are coming, the road you pass through. If you construct Accra Tama Road, you construct the major road, that is the highways roads. The big road, you say you are constructing Cocoa Road. What cocoa is there? This is the place where cocoa is. So if you are saying you are going to construct Cocoa Road, see the farmers and let us identify you the roads. That this is
He is one of the many cocoa farmers who have resorted to using animal manure on his farm due to high cost of fertilizer. It follows government decision to ask cocoa farmers to pay for fertilizers initially supplied for free. Though government believes the move would ensure fertilizer reach those who really need it, the cost has become a disincentive.
We are asking government to reduce the fertilizer for us again. I think the government has reduced it to 80 Ghana, but we also feel that we have to come down again because it's very high to the farmers. Yeah, that's why I prefer to apply manure, organic manure. That's a poultry feed manure, because the cost of the fertilizer is high, and if the fertilizer is if you didn't get the rain, it has effect on the land, but manure has no effect on the land. So I prefer all these people have applied manure.
Cocoa Board wants cocoa farmers to negotiate with officials to address the challenge. Ni Takiotu is regional manager.
For the road networks, we collaborate with the assembly. In fact, some of us, those of us in the region, we talk to the assembly to help. Because if you want cocoa road, for instance, we can't champion it. It is the district assembly that will apply. You see, not only the cost of inputs, but the right input. For instance, farmers are to establish in every district an input shop under Kokoshi. Kokoshi is a Cocoa Coffee Shenat Farmers Association. They have to establish in every district an input shop, and they don't do it.
Prince Apia reporting.
And back in Accra, the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has given a firm assurance it will not compromise on safety as it grants permits to some new airlines seeking to commence operations in the country. With the current expansion works at the Kotoka International Airport, there are some concerns the regulator might relent on its stringent procedures in order to attract more airlines. But speaking to Joy Business, Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Simon Aloti, says although they are looking to attract more investments, the regulator will not relax on safety.
Safety can never be compromised. Surely we want to promote the growth of the aviation industry, but we can only do that in a very safe, efficient, and responsible manner. We will not compromise on our safety standards just in a bid to attract more airlines. Airlines will have to comply fully with Ghana Civil Aviation regulations. There can be no shortcuts, but what we are trying to do these days to make us more responsive to the needs of operators. We are a friendly regulator, but that does not mean we compromise on safety standards. We try to work as fast and as efficient as possible. It is through that sort of interaction, collaboration with the operator that we can achieve a vision of making Ghana the aviation hub. Where we put in unnecessary delays, bureaucracy, it will kill private investment. But let me assure you that we will continue to provide safe and efficient, regulatory services. We have one of the safest airspaces. We are one of the best regulators on the country. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority continues to assist several states in Africa to improve on their safety oversight regime.
And before we close down the show, from her days as Miss Ghana and delving into politics and now the palm oil business, we bring you the story of Bridget Jogbe-Nuku and how she has been empowering women through her palm oil business. This week on the Joy Business Van, we went to the Volta region to see how Bridget does it. Here's an excerpt of our conversation with the former beauty queen.
Some 20 years ago, she simply stopped traffic and was drop-dead gorgeous on the runway. She charmed the nation with her beauty and brains to win the crown in the 1991 Miss Ghana pageant. Then she shot into the limelight again in 2016 as the vice presidential candidate for the Progressive People's Party. Meet Bridget Jogbe-Nuku. Perhaps with a penchant for being in the limelight, Bridget is at it again. This time, getting her hands soiled with red oil. She's in her kitchen with empty bottles and a bowl full of palm oil under the brand name Vey Flavor. How did she get to this? Let's rewind the process and see how it all starts in Vey.
You don't have to miss this edition of the Joy Business Van, which comes up on Business Live this evening at 5 p.m. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. It's been a great pleasure having you on board. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Let's meet again tomorrow, same time. Have a good afternoon.